Okay, so this video, Colonialism Made the Modern World, Let's Remake It. This article was written by Adam Getachew. She is a Neubauer family assistant professor of political science and the college at the University of Chicago. She is a political theorist with research interests in the history of political thought, theories of race and empire, and post-colonial political theory. Her work focus, Her work focuses on the intellectual and political histories of Africa and the Caribbean. She holds a joint PhD in political science and African American studies from Yale University. And she is on the faculty board of the Posen Center for Human Rights, a fellow at the Chicago Center of Contemporary Theory, and a faculty affiliate at the Center for the Study of Race, Politics, and Culture. She wrote this piece for the New York Times, and it's how we're going to start to think about decolonization and what is required for us to begin to decolonize. So she begins that decolonization has gained new political currency. Political currency means that there's a now vested interest in decolonization in the last few years, in more recent years, as more specifically with protests like Standing Rock against the Dakota Access Pipeline. Students in South Africa to Britain have marched under the banner to challenge Eurocentric curriculums. So again, there is still, even though South Africa is a independent country, it is still under colonial influence through European curriculums in school. There's also been a large debate about the return of artifacts in European museums, especially after the passing of Queen Elizabeth. A lot of countries began to articulate and reject the position of colonial powers in their commonwealth or in their so-called dependent countries. They started to question Elizabeth's continued representation as a ruling force and Europe's representation as a ruling force, but also in the return of artifacts that have that were stolen from the different places that have been colonized. She writes that European colonial administrations viewed decolonization as the process in which they would allow their imperial charges to graduate to independent to to graduate to independence by modeling themselves on European states. So their idea was that they would allow the formerly colonized states to become independent as long as they are practicing a Eurocentric or European style system of governance. That's not what decolonization is in reality. That's not what colonized people or formerly colonized people understand to be the real goal of colonization or decolonization. Cultural decolonization is an important term for you to understand. When we think about all of the ways that there is still colonial influence, and here again comes those terms axiology, epistemology, and ontology, how colonialism influences our thought processes, the things that we've constructed as normal, the things that we've constructed as valuable, the things that we construct as knowledge and knowledgeable. um, Cultural decolonization is the removal of those particular influences. While colonial rule, while the actual process of colonizing in a physical sense has moved, are shifted away. There is still the economic hold that colonialism has and the cultural hold that colonialism has. Cecil Rhodes was a minister of the Cape Colonies in South Africa. He was an active imperialist and a businessman, founded the De Beers diamond firm, which was significant in the control of global trade. I want you to know what the students' call of action was in relation to Cecil Rhodes and decolonizing the university. I want you to think about the significance of the removal of statues of colonizers, or in the United States, a couple of years ago, there was an active removal of Confederate statues. I want you to think about the significance and the importance of that. What is meant by, or what do you think is meant by colonialism made Europe and the modern world? So most of the time we think about colonialism, we think about it as having made the modern world, right? So colonialism made the new world in what it is today. We see the impacts of colonialism in Africa. What she's arguing is that it also made Europe a superpower. She writes, profits from the slave trade fueled the rise of port cities in Bristol, Liverpool, and London, while the Atlantic economy that slavery created helped to fuel the Industrial Revolution. Europe wouldn't be, and the United States would not be the powers that they are without the exploitation that is a part of colonialism, right? That the making of Europe and the making of the United States actually is not because of their own advanced thinking or their own technologies. It's from the exploitation of colonized people. It's from the free labor. It's from the taxation of people. It's from the dispossession of lands. It's from the stealing of knowledge that existed in those places and incorporating it into the new governing systems, right? We'll see next week how the United States gets its sense of democracy. She mentions both reparations and restitutions. Reparations are compensation that's given to rectify the damage caused by violence, right, or abuses. It is supposed to make right. Restitution is similar in that it is about restoring what has been lost, right? So reparations would be paying for the labor. Restitution would be restoring the artifacts from the museums or something like that, restoring the things that were taken away, or providing financial compensation for the things that were taken away that cannot be recovered. Okay, so I think that we'll end this one here.